What happens after I quit my dream job as an English teacher in Japan? I quit 2 more jobs and I'd do it again. Bop, bop, bop. Oh, you thought I quit my job and lived happily ever after? How wrong you are. But it's finally time to tell you guys the whole story about what Ben and I have been through since coming to Tokyo. Starting with going through hell while moving, my job and life falling apart when we got here, juggling 2 jobs, and finally getting to where we are now, literally, like right now, right here. We are the Hitobito.
We're just making a bet.
And if you've seen our first video about quitting my job, then feel free to skip to this timestamp. But if you're lazy like me, then we'll give you some bullet points. I was sent straight out of college to the beautiful but rural Awaji Island on the JET program. We got scammed a few times moving in, which was a rocky start, and we had a hard time adjusting to the island's culture, especially after COVID. And I loved the job, but I didn't love the situation, so we started making videos, which gave me the chance to pursue a new job in Tokyo. But this is where we need to catch you guys up. So please like and subscribe if you've been on this journey with us and want to see what comes next, because there's a lot to come. Starting with Chapter 1, The Nightmare Hotel.
Welcome to our home for our first 2 weeks in Tokyo, complete with rats, no window, no space, but only $30 a night. What a steal! You might be wondering, why didn't you guys just use your YouTuber money to move in somewhere nice? And to that I answer, what YouTuber money? So, fun fact, we were actually not making any money from our platform for like pretty much the first year. And we hadn't even started posting on YouTube yet. It was all on TikTok at that point. Which is why we're super grateful to have sponsors like IKEA to help support us making these videos. Speaking of which, IKEA has given us a cooking challenge.
In the spirit of small spaces, we've decided to take this sushi and make it as small as humanly possible.
But we're gonna compete against each other to see who can make it better.
And you guys will decide the winner in the comments.
Fight!
This is harder than it looks.
Fun fact, IKEA actually just did a study called the Life at Home Report, which found that people who enjoy experimenting in the kitchen enjoy their life at home more. Fun.
Now it's time to cut up our fish.
Pretty big, I don't know.
So we're trying to get a bit creative and using the Grill Tighter pizza cutter to get these straight lines for the seaweed. Not bad.
Nice. We're gonna put one of the tuna pieces into the grill, and then we're gonna present it, and mine is gonna be way better than Megan's.
That's simply untrue.
All right, so on this side we have Megan's, and here we have my majestic sushi, which I think looks pretty much identical.
I think the comments know who really did this challenge best. We'd like to say thank you again to IKEA for sponsoring this video and challenging us to make the most of something very small.
Which, that reminds me. But yeah, honestly, before all of this, we were pretty much broke. And though we had some savings from our jobs, the yen was plummeting and things were getting more expensive. Now, we're super, super lucky that we have families that love and support us and would be able to help us out if we were in like a dire situation, but we really didn't want it to come to that.
But don't forget, we were about to be even more broke because we needed to find an apartment in Tokyo. And you may not know this, but apartment hunting in Japan is a nightmare. And okay guys, obviously I tried to find an apartment before we came to Tokyo, but it's not that simple. You see, you have to have a real estate agent in order to get an apartment here. We did not get a good real estate agent because he wouldn't answer our phone calls, our emails, our texts. He was not very responsive at all, despite the fact that at the end of this process, we would be paying him a whole month's worth of rent as a real estate agent fee. The other thing to mention, we told him many times when our deadline to move into an apartment was. Did he listen? No. We got here and he was very confused about the fact that we were living in a hotel. And we said, well, we have like 3 days in this hotel, but then we thought that we'd be ready to move into our apartment. And he goes, oh really? I haven't even put in the application yet. So if you're wondering why we ended up in this prison cell for 2 weeks, that's why. That is why. This man hardly even found an apartment for us. I was the one on all these real estate websites sending him the listings and hoping that he would put in the application for us. And it took about 2 weeks.
And we're not mad about it.
And we're not mad about it.
All he had to do was send an email.
All he had to do was send emails. We did look at a couple of apartments, but he slowly let them slip through the cracks until we only had one option left.
And that kind of sucked for a number of reasons. It was the most expensive option that we looked at, but given that it was the only option left, we kind of had to take it. We couldn't just keep staying in Japanese Alcatraz. I seriously have trauma coming back here in the first place. It takes me back to when I was eating the Yoshinoya gyudon like every single day. It only takes so much to break a man. Secondly, in Japan, there's this fun thing called key money, which is basically just a deposit that you never get back. And it can be up to 2 months of rent. Oh yeah, thirdly, you still have to pay a deposit after everything else. And then finally, there's the real estate agent fee. I don't know how people aren't rioting about this. Maybe it's going over my head. But yeah, that was another month's rent. We were in kind of a bad spot. But the one thing that we kept telling ourselves, even through all of the craziness, was,
if you're in a rough patch, hold on for 1 month.
just because things are bad doesn't mean that you need to give up. But if you give yourself a timeline, it can help you have basically a marker that will help you realize if you're actually doing better or not. And that way you can stay a little bit more sane. And if we were still miserable at the end of the month, we could say we tried, but it was time to try something new. In our case, it actually worked out. So we held on, and that kept us sane for that amount of time.
It's amazing the amount of times we've used this mentality, and guess what? We're still in Japan. Spoilers.
Oh, frick.
Oh, frick, guys.
Frick, heckin' darn, dude.
Dang it. But we were hoping that the job that I came to Tokyo for would be a long-term, stable thing that I could really fall in love with.
Chapter 2, I quit my job again.
Hey, so if you could get this to me by tonight, that would be so great. Wait, where are you going? There's deadlines!
The deadlines! The deadlines! Why are you running? Why are you running?
That's right, Mama raised a quitter. Unfortunately for me, quitting in Japan can mean a whole world of pain. But a lot of you guys were wondering, why does your company in Japan have so much power in the first place? And why does quitting have to be this whole big ordeal? Why can't you just write your resignation on a napkin and that's the end of it? So here's a brief lesson about why quitting in Japan sucks so much ass. It's not just a job, it's your whole life. You need the paperwork from your company to make changes to your health insurance, your taxes, your pension. Sometimes even your housing is connected to your company. And your old job can make tying up all those bureaucratic threads a total nightmare if they're even a little bit vengeful. There's also your visa that you have to be concerned with. If you're a foreigner, then your visa is tied to your job. So no job, no visa. And then there's the work-family culty vibes. Because you spend so much time with your work colleagues, you form pretty tight connections with them. But that means it can be kind of awkward when you decide you want to leave. More like a personal breakup than just saying, hey, I found a new and better job. But what was that second job that I just pieced out on? Long story short, it was doing what I'm currently doing, but for another company, posting on their social media, making viral videos and kind of promoting their company. It seemed like it was perfect for me and lined up perfectly with the prior experience that I had. But as you guys may know, all that glitters is not gold, because this place was messy and unorganized and crazy with deadlines. And as many companies do, they disguise this shady overwork as flexible work hours, saying things like, oh yeah, no problem if you want to clock in at 11:30 a.m., but you better be available when we message you at midnight or else you're dead to us. And another red flag was they expected me, a person who was maybe 1 week into this job, basically an intern at this point, to take over their multi-million follower accounts while they all went off on a trip to LA. I even recruited Ben to help keep up with all this work, even though only one of us was being paid. I was kind of delulu.
She has severe anxiety.
But I'm medicated now.
Yay!
Woohoo! But after it became abundantly clear that this place was not the one for me, I dipped before it became worse. And worse it did get, because this company no longer exists. So I can't say I didn't see that coming.
Called it.
Ben, come on in. Tell the people about this time in our life.
Well, I mean, we were living in that little hotel, and yeah, you were stressed out of your mind. We didn't know where we were gonna live. We were running out of money.
And I don't think any of our viewers would have ever known, because
No.
during that period, I remember I was running on empty because I was needing to post, like, you know, at least once a day, usually multiple times a day for this company. And we had our own stuff we were trying to maintain too.
It was suffering. But yeah, that kind of leads us to what we learned from the situation, which was if you can safely, you should take any chance you can to get away from people that don't give a crap about your time or effort and don't respect you at all. But she still needed a visa and therefore a job. At this point, I was still working part-time, taking singing jobs and working online, but we really needed her to get something stable, really pin us in so that we don't get deported.
Chapter 3, Corporate Baddies.
That's right, it's time for me to get a real capital J job, including tie and cringe millennial humor. Was it a dream job? I don't know about all of that, but at the time, it was exactly what we needed.
So all this time, I'd actually been working for a tourism company, and with a touch of luck, Megan got a job there too, just in a different department. A lot of our jobs were just working on spreadsheets, answering emails, talking to clients, so not the most glamorous by any means, but we got to work from home most days, research cool places in Japan, and occasionally travel for work. Overall, pretty slick gig. But this is where we learned a lot about Japan's really unique business culture. The okyakusama, or the customer, in Japan is king. And I mean that to a level that I hadn't really ever understood before. The client messed up, your fault. The client asks you to do the impossible, make the impossible possible. The client says jump, kashikomarimashita! Okay.
The client says you can stop.
Though most of the work that we were doing was done in English, since the company was about half and half foreigners versus Japanese people, we could immediately recognize the Japanese culture was written deeply into each of the processes. In this case, it meant a real obsession with creating a quality experience for tourists coming into Japan, which overall I can get behind. I mean, after all, that was why we started making videos in the first place, all the way from Megan's English teacher days, to kind of show off cool places in Japan and stuff that people in other countries might not have seen. But millionaire tourists on their Japan trips can be a handful. Thanks so much for utilizing our 24-hour tour support service. I was so glad to hear that you made full use of Japan's amazing selection of boutique alcohols, as you reminded me after midnight every night of your tour. I deeply apologize that the hotel staff declined your very gracious romantic advances. We have a number of agency-approved therapists we can refer you to. Please contact them.
Now, answering drunk emails from clients at midnight might seem like the type of high-rolling job that gets you a pretty cushy salary, but this is Japan we're talking about. And salaries in Japan, if you haven't heard, are like notoriously, depressingly low. I'm talking like what would it be in USD?
Like $1,200 to like $1,300.
Yeah, $1,200 to $1,300. In yen, 200,000 to 250,000 if you're a new graduate.
A month.
A month. Depending on where you may live in the world, this might not seem like a problem, but this has been in the news for a while now that these wages are just too low to keep up with inflation and the rising cost of rent here, especially in Tokyo. And the worst part is that hierarchical business culture, which Japan has, means that the newest workers, and therefore lowest wage earners, are doing the hardest, most miserable work, usually working overtime and during the weekends. And it's actually interesting. Ben is off camera, but I think we'd both agree that like working at a Japanese company has really put into perspective how a lot of these companies that we see abroad, like Nintendo and Sony, a lot of the decisions they make no sense from like a Western kind of capitalist mindset. But when you come over here, it makes a lot more sense the things that they're doing.
Yeah, one way I like to describe life in Japan is like, imagine if your whole country was run by Nintendo. It's like, oh, it'd be like really clean and efficient, and you know, the user interface is great, and like things work most of the time. The bugs, you know, not too many glitches, not too many bugs, but customer service is pretty rough. They don't really listen to their, you know, the people giving them feedback and stuff like that. So it's kind of it's one way to kind of look at it. To
Very
give people
little
perspective.
Flexibility.
They do it their way. You know?
Well, it's like within the confines of the rule book, they give you quite a few options, and they do it really well. They execute everything by the book very well.
Nintendo games are known for how good they are.
Yeah, they run really well. But if there's anything you want to do that's not within their vision, that's the end of the conversation.
And we're also prefacing this by saying we love Japan, we love Japan, Japan's so
love Japan,
cool, we
Japan's
love them, we
amazing.
love America, we love Japan, we love all the different countries. Like,
It's
just so people don't get confused.
There's certain parts of a workplace that are very important that aren't in the US, like taking care of your workers. Like, you know, we get great insurance here. Health checks, pension is automatically taken out of your paychecks. Like, they have a very robust social safety net, which is
not like Social Security in the US.
Yeah.
It's not actually going to end up helping out. Like, it's actually a significant amount.
Yeah, and that's great. On the other hand, like, we come from the United States, where most decisions that a corporate entity makes are based on profit. And it's really confusing sometimes because here you would think, oh, the logic is whatever makes the most money is going to be what they choose. But sometimes they just choose the most out there, like, to me, illogical choice because somebody, again, at the top, is like, this is just what I want to do.
But back to this job, we learned a ton. And honestly, I think we can both agree that this is kind of the reason we take content so seriously now. We had deadlines, we had things that we learned from that job. We learned how to take care of the customers, which now are you. You are our new Okiakusama.
So listen, I didn't leave every job I've ever had because it had some big blowout drama. This was a unicorn job by all means. It was great for what I needed at the time, and I really met a lot of great people and did a lot of great things. But there came a time when it seemed like we might need to move forward.
So what we learned from this was that, you know, you do what you got to do to make ends meet. Sometimes you get really lucky with a great job, and you can learn a lot from otherwise mundane circumstances. But there was some other stuff going on at this time.
Chapter 4, Rise and Grind.
We were clearly on that grind, but you may be wondering at this point where we were on our content creation journey. Well, during this time, we were doing our corporate 9-to-5s, and by that I actually mean 9-to-6s, because when I enter the workforce, magically somehow it goes from being a 9-to-5 to a 9-to-6 because lunchtime doesn't count anymore as work hours, which doesn't even make sense because doesn't it seem like a basic human right that
Ma'am,
you
you're
need
coming with me.
to...
Well, we were working our jobs under a system that we would never question in any way, and we were very satisfied with. This whole time we were filming every weekend, editing in the evenings, and then staying up late so that our US audience would see the videos in the morning. You could say that we did a little bit of mining off camera. So our evenings were a little bit less about winding down and relaxing, and a little bit more like...
Day in my life working in Japan.
Can you try it one more time with like more, like a, you know?
What does that even mean?
And we both agree, making YouTube videos is not that hard, but doing that while we had a real job at the same time was pretty difficult.
I think it was especially difficult, and a lot of creatives would likely agree, when your regular job requires some level of creativity and it drains that from you, and then you have to go home and work on your own creative endeavors. This is especially demotivating when you have clients who, when it comes between your life or getting a project done 30 seconds earlier, 9 times out of 10 they would pick the project. But all this is to say, it was finally time to make one more big change to our life here in Japan.
So it was time to take the inevitable next step in our YouTube journey, which was begging CDog VA to please let us into his talent agency.
Okay.
good. You guys again? Fine, come on.
It was actually kind of good timing because he had just been added to this agency's board members and they were looking for some new talents to recruit. Right here, right here. But unfortunately, we couldn't just join this agency with a firm handshake. We actually had to go through a while of dealing with contracts and negotiations before we could finally reveal that this isn't a ramen shop at all. It's actually a studio for filming because we're signed with Geeks Plus.
That's right. This was all a ruse, a clever ploy designed to mess with your perception.
All right, mind free. So being with our agency means that we got nice new residence cards, this time as entertainers, which means we are now officially professional clowns. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that. Now, I know a lot of you miss my days as an English teacher, but back then I was kind of just a clown and now isn't much different, so.
True. So yeah, we're signed with Geeks Plus, which is a creator agency in Tokyo, and they're going to be helping us make better and better videos for you guys, and we're here in their pretty studio.
Yeah, they've collected us creators here in Tokyo like infinity stones. In fact, this is where they chain us up when we're not making videos.
It's true. I'm so cold. Since it was such a big and weird transition going from a stable, normal 9-to-5 job into making videos full time, we really appreciate you guys watching. So giving us that 0.001 AdSense every view, and I'm always looking out in the comments and trying to reply to you guys. And especially if you've made it this far,
then you are a very special student and you deserve a gold star.
ding! So what's next, Megan?
We are moving. There's always something with us.
There's always something.
So if you guys want to support us on our next journey as you have with our past, then feel free to check out our Patreon.
Yeah, and also we have channel memberships and little stickers, and we have full videos on our Patreon that pretty much no one's seen. So go check those out, and thanks so much.
So we'll see you next time we quit something. It's bound to happen.